Since he gave you his book there, I ain't got nothing to give you. I guess I'll just give you this little plaque that I wrote. That's all I got for you.
Oh, thank you. A falling star. A falling star is only a reminder that we all must go sometime to a place where we'll be weighed for running a race to show the maker that his grace was not a waste. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I want to show you, this is my book, so his grace was not a waste. That's my book right there.
Oh, wow.
And that book is published by the same person or the same publisher.
Okay.
IC Books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
I feel like I've seen that before.
yeah, IC Books, and she's doing real good. And I don't think that she's that good. I really don't.
Oh, really?
No, she's not good. She's the best.
Okay,
And I'm
okay.
not just saying that she's better than the rest, but I will say that that's my daughter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course she's the best.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you that. So I'm ready when you get ready to do your thing.
I'm gonna give her a compliment. She's the publisher of Chicken Scratch, and he says she's the best, and I believe he's absolutely correct about that. And one thing we definitely do know, if she's not the best, she walk amongst the very best.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, she's in LaGrange. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
LaGrange, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So what year were you in? You were in the Air Force, right?
Yes, from 1971 to January of 1991.
Oh, okay, okay.
92, really.
Were you ever stationed in the Philippines?
No, I didn't make it. Far as I went in terms of, I went to Guam,
Uh-huh.
Thailand, and Germany, Ramstein.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna ask my dad about you.
Yeah.
Because we were in the Philippines from 72 to 78 with a little year gap in Nebraska.
What part of Nebraska?
Oh, it was horrible. Omaha.
That's where I was stationed at. That was my first duty assignment. I loved it.
Oh, it was
In fact, I
awful.
picked up my wife there.
It was awful as a child. It was awful.
Well, what year are we talking about?
We were 1972, 72, 73.
Why? Well, that before I got there. That before I got there. I was
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
It was so prejudiced.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. Because we had to, I remember that's the earliest memory I have of racism, is me and my sister in elementary school. We're running home from these white boys who were throwing snowballs at us, called us nigger. That was Omaha. We were only there for a year, but I was like,
What part of Omaha were you in?
we were like, I don't know if we were on the base or off the base.
That's
but
not like.
close to off it.
But that's.
Omaha is real. It was.
You
real
might have been
privileged.
out there in that white area.
No, my dad would not deliberately live in a white area. No, we were close to the base.
That's you would see the base is a long ways from Omaha.
Yeah.
See, Omaha, you got to drive a few miles to get to Omaha from the base.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got there, because it was out west, I personally thought it was going to be a lot of racism, just like I thought when I went to Klamath Falls, Oregon, that there would be a lot of racism. And I didn't see it there. And I say that because you had interracial marriage was very prominent. Even in my white family, they had married whites, and there was very little. But now I will say this: today, Omaha is racist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so if it's racist now, what you saying had to be racist back then. We
Yeah.
do know that what they did to Malcolm there.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
so what you were saying was standing test. But when I
Yeah.
got there, and it may be because when I went there, that's when they had implemented what they call race relations, because that's
Yeah.
throughout that military because it was so
Yeah.
prejudiced.
Yeah, because
And so
my dad was on
yeah,
that team.
yes. He was in that educational
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Wow.
He was basically doing all the diversity
Well,
training.
then, well,
all
he
the
knew
race
what
relations.
he knew what
He
time
was
it
in
was,
race relations,
and he was
stuff
caught
like
up
that.
into it because he had to try to take it out of there, and they did a good job on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked
But
with
now
social action.
it's all come back after.
Yes,
the
that's social
Hollywood
action.
actor.
Yeah, I agree.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
the Hollywood actor from the 80s.
I know. The Hollywood actor, that's a good one. I agree.
So, yeah. So, but I have like all his materials and stuff like that he used to teach out of.
Yeah.
He
Is he
gave me
still
all
living?
of that. He's 80. He just
Wow.
turned 80. He had we had a birthday party for him. And so he wanted everybody like dressed in African attire and everything. And me and my sister gave him a cane. And that's done.
Oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe this.
You know, don't you?
No, I got it out. I got just like his.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I wore that in some of my videos.
Oh,
You see it?
really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
He look like a stylish gentleman now.
Yeah, yep.
Where your mom?
My mom is deceased.
She's deceased.
Yeah. But they were married for like 45,
Wow.
46 years.
Okay.
And then the next year, Dad got remarried, and we were like, what? So
Okay.
we were like, okay, who's this lady? So, yeah.
Well, before we get started, can you show me the gifts that you received today and hold them up to the camera here?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a gift here from Pastor Robinson. It is his autobiography, Chicken Scratch.
Published by IC Books. Thank you.
Yes, published by IC Books, the best
Yes.
publisher. And we have a poem here written by Mr. George Rhynes. And we also have, you consider this your autobiography?
No,
Or
that is a tribute to
a
an
tribute.
unknown soldier.
Okay.
And if a person is in the military, it's written in the military style, but I call
Yeah.
it tribute to an unknown soldier in an allegorical setting. The only way they can get to really understand that is to read the book and to see if you know that soldier. It starts out with the soldier that came through 42 generations, abolished the sins of the world. And so you have to really, it's written in an allegorical setting.
Okay.
And I have to admit that my military experience is what inspired me to write that book. So I'm just we sharing this with you because you took enough time to invite us to sit down here today at Valdosta State University, and you got your master's degree. I mean your Bachelor of Science degree. I mean your PhD. And we know you're not like some of these people who get their PhD and haven't got the other two. So,
Oh,
no,
right.
seriously. So
Don't get me
so
started.
we commend you. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean.
I know
so
exactly what you
we
mean.
want to thank you for inviting us, and we ready when you get ready. to do
Yes,
what you
yes. I appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
do. And what's your name again? Give us your name.
I am Denise Lovett, or Marilyn Denise Lovett. So my first name Marilyn is kind of after my mom, because my mom's name was Mary, and she had a cousin. We have a cousin, Marilyn, and so when I was born, my mom was like, oh, okay, Marilyn from Mary. Okay, yeah, we can do that. So that's not my preference in terms of my name, but whenever I publish, then I always put Marilyn D. Lovett because in honor of my mom.
Oh.
Because she never went to college. She wanted to go to college, but she never went to college. And it is interesting because although she never went to college, my dad hadn't gone to college either, but he went like when I was I a senior? I was either a senior or I was an undergrad when Dad, started, finishing up his degree. So I'm basically first generation, and my parents were like, this is what we're going to do. And so 4 of us graduated from FAMU, and then my baby sister graduated from Howard.
Okay.
So yeah, so they got it. My parents got an award like when my last sister graduated from FAMU, and that was real nice. Yeah. Now we need to find the award, because I said, Dad, where's the award? He was like, I don't know. I feel like it's around here somewhere. So he's still looking for it. But I'm thinking about going back to FAM and just being like, could y'all, make a copy of that award that you gave to them like 20 years ago?
Right.
So yeah, that's what I feel like doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so tell me, I guess I could ask both of you all the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
question.
fine, yes.
Then,
Go back.
if you could tell me a little bit about your work, well, a little bit about yourselves, first of all. That's probably the first question.
Well, I'm John Robinson, and associate pastor of First Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, and a representative of the People Tribunal, which is a nonprofit organization that stands up and fights for civil rights. Okay. I'm a native of Valdosta. I was born on Stafford Wright Road at Cherry Creek, and I left here in 1963. Stayed gone for 30 years. Come back in 1994, and I was the lead plaintiff down in South Florida in a major lawsuit, civil litigation. It's called John Robinson versus Calkins Indian Town Citrus Company, and it lasted a duration of 12 years. Made it into the Library of Congress through the case, and it's used for discovery today in the federal courts. Manuel Noriega, he was in the basement doing the trial. I had the same judge that Noriega had, okay, Judge Hopler. And we fought for 12 long years, which was 12 drooling years. And the gentleman that we sued, his name was George Peck Calkins, and he was the chairman of the Republican Committee, of the Financial Committee for George Bush. Okay, so all of his power and influence came down upon my family, and we lost everything that we owned, and I got blackballed and went through a whole greater deal. I almost had a nervous breakdown doing it, and after the case was won, we was gonna move to Atlanta. We had a business, a welding service, and we was going to come to work up in Atlanta. We was the vendors for Waste Management, the Solid Waste Authority, and for the DOT for the state of Georgia and the state of Florida. And we was coming up to Atlanta to move the business. Got here to Valdosta, got homesick. And we bought a place out in Lake Park. And then as we settled in here, when we introduced our business, the first thing we was told by a major business owner here that owned the Ford Motors Corporation. It wasn't Ford, but it was a subsidiary of Ford, and called Glenn Trucking. And he told us that we wasn't going to get anywhere here because of the Good Old Boy Network. Okay? He said if I was in a place like Atlanta, we could do well. In a place like Jacksonville, we'd do quite well, but not here in Valdosta. So what we did, we brought our clients out of South Florida, and we was refurbishing roll-off tubs, dumpsters, and refurbishing garbage trucks for waste management. And they shipped containers all the way from Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach here to Valdosta and gave us a $80,000 to $100,000 a month budget to work out of.
Oh, nice.
And kept us afloat. We didn't get nothing here for at least a year. Okay. Valdosta is. We'll get to that later. We just introduced ourselves, so let George introduce himself.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to some of the things that because we're going to get into an in-depth conversation.
Okay. Yes, that sounds good. Because I have a lot of questions. Okay. How about you, Mr. Rhynes?
Well, I'm a very simple person. I was born in Thomasville,
Oh, okay.
46 miles from here, and went to school in Brooks County over here.
Okay.
And I graduated in 1970. We was brought up on a farm in Brooks County. We thank God we didn't have to live on the white man's plantation. We had our own 50 acres of land, and we have them in the family until this day.
Oh, that's
And,
excellent.
Yeah, and of course, it's a lot of discrimination down here in South Georgia. I was brought up under the system of inferiority. In fact, when I was about 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, I always hated that my skin was black and that I was a nigger and a Negro. But what happened is that I prayed one day at the foot of the hill to ask God to make me a white man. And God knew better, so he didn't make me a white man. I'm still black. But that's a prayer I'm glad he didn't answer, because I later found out when I started looking into the ancient historical archival records of the Bible, the lost books of the Bible, the forgotten books of Eden, and the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books of Moses. I found out that blackness is the original. Don't care how you get it. If you got a diamond on your finger, it got to go through the house of blackness. And so I found that out. And when I found out the black accomplishments in the Garden of Eden in Africa, I came to discover who I was.
All right.
And I was so proud that I was black until in my next book called Back to the Roots, I wrote a poem called I Am Black. And so it lets you know that you can think something based upon your ignorance. But once knowledge come into the house, you will not be ignorant, and you will be proud of what you are and what God made you, and that's where I am. So in 91, I went into the military. When I graduated, I went to Atlanta and worked for a year. And after that, I began to question myself, are you going to work at the Marriott Hotel and Sears and Roebuck the rest of your life? So I made a stepped into the Air Force, and this was during the Vietnam War era.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Yeah.
Were you drafted?
Yes. No, I wasn't drafted. That's why. In fact, that's a story in itself. Check this. There was people coming back in our 11th and 12th year of high school back in body bags.
Yeah.
And so what I did, myself and Samuel Jones and John Hamm decided that since most of the blacks were going into fight the war, we said, well, we want to go into a branch where we don't have to fight so much and come back in body bags.
That's right.
So we went over here to the post office in Valdosta. We took the test to go into the Air Force, and they told us that we didn't make high enough to go into the Air Force. Back then, you didn't have that many blacks in the Air Force. You know?
Exactly.
And so they say we didn't make high enough to go in the Air Force. We made an excellent score to go into the Marines and the Army. And so we decided that I figured I didn't flunk the test. It was something else, because those white people were saying my number is here and I need to get into the Air Force because I'm gonna be drafted. So they were letting white folk go into the Air Force to meet their quota, but they were letting us into the Army. So what we did, we rode to Atlanta, took the test at the post office up there, passed, and went into the Air Force anyway. And that's how we got into the Air Force. There were so many people coming back in body bags. So to make a long story short, I don't want to take up much time in the introduction, but I would like to hit these points here. I went into the military, and I was in supply, I was in personnel, and then they put me in something called the security service. I was in security service headquarters for approximately 3 years at this big high security fence in Kelly Air Force Base. And when I went
California, if I remember.
No, this is there at Kelly.
Wait, that's San Antonio.
Texas.
Okay,
Antonio.
it was right next to Lackawanna.
Yes, and I got 2 classified assignments. They spent the $10,000 to $20,000 to do that background clearance on me. Went back into the community and asked all the questions up to my family and school and teachers. And this is why, as I close, this is why I don't understand. My experience was to handle 250,000 records of people that was in the security service and all around that had the clearances. And there's no way that like Donald Trump had access to that classified top secret information. I can't understand how that could even happen. My job was in documentation to maintain these records. Those classified documents, number one, they are accounted for after they are put the stamp on. They got to be maintained, secured. There's a way you handle them. There's a way you check them out. There's a way you return them. And then there's a way you file them away and hold them until the life of that document. This is why I don't understand why the news media networks in America are not asking the question, who released those documents to the president, who was responsible for maintaining those documents, and who was responsible for retrieving those documents, and account if they were not where they were supposed to be, then how in hell did the man get them, and how did they lose control? Because I had that job, and if I would have lost those documents, or if I would have let those documents out longer than the suspense date, they would have called me on the cop, and I wouldn't be getting a paycheck every month like I'm getting now. I'm gonna end that with that.
Right. And then another thing that I thought about too is that, like, even with Biden being found with documents as well, and on top of that, another thing that I heard somebody question the media about had to do with the recent release of documents, of Pentagon documents, and how they're out there. But at no point has the media asked what's in those documents. And that tells us something right there, because what's in them would basically make people's heads explode, and make people think like, okay, we're sending billions. Now tell me again why we're sending billions, because the answers are in what those documents are that were released. That's what I believe.
That's very good. A very good point.
Yeah.
And,
So
and while he's talking about his interview here, let me tell him about the radio broadcast.
Well, I didn't want to take up that much time. Okay, I'll be brief. When I came to South Georgia in March of '75, because I was about 20, 2 years old. But my mind have always been to continue the work of those George Washington Carvers and Booker T. Washington, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, and these other people that I studied about. And so I wanted to compliment the work that they had done. So I came to Valdosta and I joined the BCAG, which you don't hear nothing about, but then I was
What does that stand for?
the BCAG was the Black BCAG. It'll come to me later. I'm getting older now.
Okay. Okay.
Black Community Action Group. That's
Oh,
right.
okay. Oh, I like that.
And so I was I got involved with the Brooks County ACP and helped them set up a branch over there, and came over here and set up a branch over here with Eugene. I can't think of his last name. And then from there, to make a long story short, I started a radio broadcast not too long after that, and I was on WGOV. It was a white-owned station, but it had the black experience in the background.
Okay.
And then from the WGOV, I went over to WJEM, and I was on radio for I don't know how many years. In fact, when I went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I was on WLAT up there in Conway, South Carolina. And I just was out there, and I met the Muslims, and I began to embrace the Muslims, and I was a minister, and then a traditional minister at that time. I'm not a traditional minister anymore because my mind took me to another level. But the point is that, and so when I came back to Valdosta, and I saw how much information was being lost because the Valdosta Daily Times and the TV stations and the radio station would not cover the news in the black community. And so I started something called KVCI, which meant keeping Valdosta citizens informed. And I would write. I didn't have the camera then, but then I had all this information published on PhiladelphiaNews.com. Somebody didn't like that information, so what they did, they started putting a virus in the information about what was going on, and eventually that virus, when I saw what they was doing, I just started copying my material. So by the time they destroyed PhiladelphiaNews.com site with my information published that the news media wouldn't republish, then I had it in my file, and I have it until this day. So then I began to wait, let me reach out a little bit. And so I picked up the camera. Then I started going into not only the communities and meetings in Valdosta, but all around the state of Georgia, South Georgia and Middle Georgia, all the way up to Atlanta, as well as out to New Orleans, Omaha, Nebraska. I've been all around, but it was the fact that our news was not being reported, that Doc Robinson wanted that mentioned in, I guess, in my life and legacy, because often I'll just forget that part of my life because whatever reason, I don't never want to be in the limelight. But what I wanted to do is what Dr. King said, and that is to keep the bread fresh, because I don't want our children eating spoiled, molded bread, because I know that's not good to them. And there's so many things that go on here that is totally lost. I'm today, after the KJ death, which you got a picture of Kendrick Johnson in your area here, I'm under a 10-year criminal trespass because the night of that young man's death, his dad Kenneth called me because of the work that I've been doing over these decades. And he called me and said, 10 o'clock at night, he said, Rhynes, they done killed my son. He said, I want to talk to you tomorrow. I said, I don't operate like that. I said, give me your address. I'll see you in a few minutes. And that's where I went, and I met him. And the school superintendent, West Taylor, the Lowndes County Sheriff Department, and perhaps this local judicial system, I guess they wanted to shut me up because they know my slogan, I report what others ignore. They didn't want them children talking to me, apparently. So today I'm still under criminal trespass. I wrote President Barack Obama. I wrote Eric Holder. I wrote the Department of Justice in Atlanta. I wrote Oprah Winfrey. I wrote everybody I could to let them know what they were doing to me following the death of Kendrick Johnson. And nobody have removed me from this criminal trespass until this day. Now, they wrote me a letter and told me they don't have nothing on me. But see, the point is that it's not about my criminal trespass in that regard. It's about the fact that when they placed me under Lowndes County Sheriff Deputy by 2 different sheriffs at different occasions, they didn't put anything in writing. But if I had not had my That's
right.
nothing in writing. But they told me, and I got the video, I got the audio saying, you will be arrested. And I got it on tape. And so I asked them to clear me in writing.
Right.
Because you put me under. They deny they did it. Nobody will acknowledge until this day. And more people, they want me to forget it. They want me to forget about it.
That's right.
But if they put me under it and made it unequivocally clear not to go on any, I thought it was just Lowndes County High School property. But my friend John Roberts, that's not what they meant. He said they meant no Lowndes County property. I went back and listened to my tape, and that's exactly what they said. They didn't want me on no Lowndes County school property.
But it's not in writing, so it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, no, it's not in writing, and it don't exist. But I got it on tape, and they got it in their memory banks. So if I went out there, they really could do it to me, and they can do it until the day because they did it. So what I'm asking, and I know they did it. So I'm asking them to remove it in writing. That's common sense. I'm retired military, and I was taught in the military that if it's not in black and white,
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist,
That's
and it
right.
didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, it just so happened that they wrote it on this, and I got it. So since you did it, then you remove me in black and white. I'm not a fool. I may be ignorant in some things, but I'm not ignorant in that.
Right.
I know
That I'm being mistreated. Thank you, Doc, because I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
oh man. And then a follow up, I went out and visited, and I recorded something that they had, statements that they had made. And they sent a gentleman and ran me down as I was walking off from the site, and let me know that they did have something on him. Okay? And the issue was, and still is to this day, they have never interviewed these children that was involved in that KJ's issue.
The
You know,
whole thing.
And they was afraid that he would have something to say and get news about, because my grandson was a friend of KJ's, and when he came home that afternoon, he told him exactly what had occurred that day.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And they provoked them not to be able to discuss it. They announced it over the intercom not to discuss any issues pertaining to that case, okay? And then after a period of time, you know, young people tend to have a tendency to forget,
Yeah.
you know, and it went like that. But they had him, they still got him under criminal trespass. I had invited him over, and the strange part about this, he came up in a rental car.
Right.
And they identified him. So now, if he came in his own vehicle, you could say, well, they know his vehicle. But when he got there and he said who he was, they said, no, sir.
They turned me around.
Turned around.
Oh, no.
And I invited him to record my granddaughter's graduation.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then that's when they hit him with the big one.
Oh, good
Now,
night.
during our interview, we both admit we might not can fly a B-57, okay? But we can assure you we can drop a bomb. We can assure you.
And that's what he say. Now I take it. I'm not up there. I take it a little lower.
Right.
I say I cannot fly an F-16, but I can operate a rocket ship.
Oh, well.
All right.
So you better watch out, because I can raise hell in a rocket ship.
All right.
Well, let me ask you all this about the organizations of which you're members of. The Black Community Action Group. I love that idea. Does it still exist?
No, it been dissolved many years ago.
What happened?
Well, it put it like this. It did great work,
Okay.
but that was before. If I'm sure I do have it right. The BCAG was before the NAACP got in Valdosta. Then when the NAACP came, of course, I think that the BCAG was kind of a breakdown, and it kind of faded out. But it was very strong organization. It was local, but it was very strong, and they did a lot of work. And I must commend those earlier freedom fighters who took on that mantle under the BCAG. Willie Hizell and what the other brother that worked with us with the Willie Rafer, and Bunnis Williams and Alma Williams, and people such of that nature, and the barbershop guy. Can't think of his name. Had the barbershop.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah, Wade Barbershop. All these was keystones in our community, and
Are they
Ruth
still
Council.
around? Are they still around?
Well, yeah,
So
Ruth
many
Council's still around. She's a retired educator. She was the first elected official on the city council. Go ahead.
Oh,
Well, what
okay.
generally works out to, I think J.C. Penn's one of them.
Daniels.
Yeah,
Tony Daniels. Tony
Okay.
Daniels was very yeah, he was very, very good. Yeah, he worked too. Reverend Ross, and can't leave out Reverend Rose. These are pioneers in the community. When some black folk would not even get involved here to try to undo the racism that exists here. I don't want to quit. I'll be going into another area, so we'll wait on that.
Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this, Pastor Robinson. The People's Tribunal, they still exist, correct?
Oh yes, oh yes.
When did you all find? When did that organization get started?
Well, I don't know exactly when it got started. I just joined it a couple
Oh,
years
okay.
ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
I can tell you about that.
Okay.
In September of 1998, Valdosta and Lowndes County in that time frame was leading the state of Georgia in jail deaths. And there was an individual, in fact, Valdosta and Lowndes County had more jail deaths than Fulton County in Atlanta. That's right. And I got if you Google this, what I said.
My goodness.
Valdosta and Lowndes County leading the state of Georgia, you'll find my videos. And what happened was when Willie James Williams was picked up on North Lee Street, I think it was, and stopped by a sheriff deputy, Kevin Farmer. And make a long story short, slammed him to the ground, and they took him out to the jail. He was found, well, they took him from there to the hospital, but they returned him back from the hospital, and he died under circumstances that yet to be determined. We didn't get no justice, to make a long story short. And we called Reverend Rose that came from Toledo, and when he got here, he had retired, and he had made a promise to his wife Estelle that he would never get involved in civil rights again. And when he did stand up at Reverend Haynes' church over there, he said that, and he cried. He said, "I promised my wife I would never get involved in this again." And she said, "You promised me, baby, you wouldn't do this." And he was reluctant, but the bottom line was, he took on the challenge of trying to seek justice for Willie James Williams. And that's how the People's Tribunal started. Now, we had a NAACP here. I wanted us all to fall under the NAACP, but they chose to start the People's Tribunal. And it did work that nobody else would do. Reverend Rose took on challenges and faced these wicked white folk that nobody else would take on. And I gotta say this at this juncture, all white folks here is not bad. You got some good white folk, because some good white folks joined the People's Tribunal. They fought with Willie James Williams. We had a couple professors from VSU, Dr. Mark George, Dr. Mark Santos, and Ari Santos.
Was Hawshaw there then?
No,
He was recently.
he came later. Yeah, he came later. But we did have some Jewish people. We had some people from India to join us in the movement. But that's how the People's Tribunal came about. But in between that, we didn't get justice. We fought for justice. And so Reverend Rose decided, and we believed that if we joined the SCLC out of Atlanta with Joseph Lowry and those, that maybe we could get more light pulled in on that case. And so he dissolved the People's Tribunal and joined the SCLC. But after the SCLC was of no value to us here in South Georgia, we went back to the People's Tribunal, and that's where we are today, the People's Tribunal. And so that's the little light on that, since you asked the question.
Yeah, that's good to know, because, go ahead.
Another part was, during that time, Reverend Rose had, and them, they led a march of 1,500 to 2,500 people.
Oh, wow.
against
Good
the city.
night.
Oh, yeah. And I joined a couple of years ago.
That sounds like it.
And we got into some issues with the city. When you go to talking about Lowndes County and the city of Valdosta, you're talking about two different towns, okay? And when you got a city that's 51% black, 43% live below poverty and earn less than $10,000 a year. Okay, and you can imagine what that brings. And you can take the food distribution here from the churches feeding the public, and from the city council members feeding the public. And when you just follow that alone, you'll find out that poverty is embedded here overwhelmingly. Okay, out of 163 years, we just finally got the first black city manager here.
I think Miss Gwen had told me something about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of 163 years. They founded Valdosta in 1860. And they formed what we classify as a hive, like a beehive, a hive of power. Okay? And the upper echelons of power is all white structure here in Lowndes County. And we are determined to break that structure. Okay? And what we did, we went out and we formed a coalition, and through the People Tribunal, we filed litigation against the city for negligence and Title 6. Okay?
For the Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
Okay? And it led to us being able to form a negotiation, and we hired Attorney Vols out of Atlanta.
What's the name?
Vols.
V-O?
Volyes, I believe. L.
Oh, okay. That looks familiar. Okay, that sounds familiar. Okay.
And we hired them out of Atlanta, and then we're utilizing a young black firm here, a Warren law firm. Okay, and we're working through him right now. So it led to us being in negotiations with the city, and we actually sat down with the mayor and the new city manager, and we are working together now, trying to find a formula that will work to prevent the litigation from moving forward.
Right. The litigation in terms of the historic preservation, right?
All of it.
Okay. Okay.
More than just the historic preservation.
Oh, okay.
But Ms. Gwen came along, and she found what we had been searching for was a needle in the haystack. And she come along and she found that needle in the haystack, and they say the straw that broke the camel's back. We found that. And the way they was doing it out in the open public, right before your eyes, but you couldn't believe what they was doing. They was doing it through districting and zoning.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And nothing historic is in any black communities, and it's zoned all around. Our church, First Antioch and New Macedonia, it was in 4 city blocks of the downtown courthouse, but it's not historic. And our church is 155 years old. Okay, founded by slaves. Okay, the mother church is the First Baptist Church down on Main Street, and we branched out from underneath them. Okay, they couldn't get no recognition and nothing public as far as being recognized in the black society because they came out from underneath a white society or church. Okay, so you can't find them in the archive. You can't find First Antioch. If you Google it in the historic archives of the American history, you can't find it, but it should be there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we'll lead the fight, and we meet with officials from the state, with the Department of Transportation, and we raise some issues right now based upon the findings of what Ms. Gwen found.
Right.
And we do newscasts, meet with the media, and we discuss it. We're not letting up. Valdosta is ran by Langdales, Scrubs.
You said Scruggs?
Scrubs.
Oh, okay. Scrubs?
Scrubs, yes, construction company, Scrubs.
S-H-R?
No, it's SC.
SCRU.
Oh, S-C-R-U.
Scrubs.
Oh,
And
interesting. Rhynes?
Rhynes.
Rhynes. The Dashers.
I heard of Langdale because the University System of Georgia commissioned a group
Right.
to look at the names behind the buildings on all of its campuses. And Langdale was one of those names that was
That's right.
recommended as a possibility of changing it.
They have always been the political power structure here.
Because they
Okay?
did the convict leasing system.
No, we had
They did the convict leasing system.
yeah. Now we had a architecture firm. Let me just tell you a little rundown on this. I came from a migrant background, migrant working in this kind of thing, and I didn't want that to be part of my children's life,
Right.
so I sent them off to become educated.
Okay.
So my oldest son name is Tyrone, and he have a master's degree in psychology.
Oh, okay. I'm
Okay.
in psychology too.
All right,
Okay.
and he got his master's in that. My other son runs the family business, which is a welding service, Fabco Fabrication Inc. We got a website and all of that.
Okay.
And then we got Tribe architecture firm. It's headed out of Atlanta.
Okay.
And we have Strive, STRIBE Engineering.
Okay.
And they all are moving to it. He's moving to Atlanta. And he's out of Haines City, Florida right now. But
Okay.
Tribe was set up downtown Valdosta. Big Nick's Cafe was downtown Valdosta.
Oh, what?
Yeah. But none of us could stay downtown. We had the winery downtown, but none of us could stay downtown. So no blacks is down in there. It might be maybe one black maybe down there now. But at one point it was driven out. The winery was victimized. Okay, and nothing legitimate never occurred on her behalf. And we've been fighting this uphill battle. Valdosta have a structure. We fought issues trying to get part of the funding. When you have people when you're in a place that's 51% black, 43% live earn less than $10,000 a year. And then when the analysis of impediments of the disparity study is done by the federal government, which was did by G.B.R. out of Texas, okay? I think it was out of Houston, I believe. And they did the study, and they found redlining here,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
They found housing discrimination here. They found the disparity impact was deplorable living conditions. And it had an appearance that when they built the Patterson Bridge, before they built the Patterson Bridge here, the south side of Valdosta was a very lively side. I mean, it was very lively. It was flourishing the same as it was on the north side of Valdosta. Okay, but when they built that bridge, it killed everything there because it was schematically designed. Okay, with all the flaws built inside. Like if you go at a panel of an electrical panel, to show you everything inside of that, how it's organized.
Right.
So, this was a schematical, structured plan to destroy the entire black community, and it did just that.
What year was that bridge built?
1980 and 81.
So, you know what's interesting? What's interesting to me is that it was something that was deliberately seen throughout all of the major cities in terms of building the highway system directly through the black community.
It wasn't by mistake.
Right, but they even found a way to even disrupt the black community in the smaller towns by building something like that as late as the 80s.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Let me hit a few points before he go into the next area. When he hit the area about Valdosta being established in 1860, Valdosta, perhaps, to my knowledge, is about the only surrounding city of any significance in terms of population that has never had an elected black mayor. Valdosta has never had an elected black mayor.
He's right.
We had an appointed black, but never an elected black mayor.
Because there was an elected black mayor even in my mama's hometown,
18 miles,
Atlanta, Georgia.
18 miles west in Quitman, all around Alma, all these little cities.
They have black mayors.
They have
right?
black mayors.
That's
Yes,
true.
all been as black mayors. all around. Douglas black
Did
mayor.
Cordell too?
Cordell black mayor, all around,
That's
but not in
true.
Valdosta, Georgia. And I mentioned that because he mentioned
Wow.
1860 when they
Wow.
founded this city, and just got a black city manager. I want to add also that Valdosta is one thing about them. They did name a street after Martin Luther King here. They really
I saw
did.
that.
And they have a city. They have streets all across Georgia and the nation, in honor of Dr. King and that great Civil Rights Nobel Peace Prize winner. But Valdosta perhaps is the only metro city with a street only 7 blocks named to Martin Luther King.
That might be the shortest
It's
Martin
only
Luther King
7.
I ever seen.
It's only 7 blocks.
I couldn't believe
And as
it.
long
Yeah.
as long as Valdosta only dedicates 7 blocks to Martin Luther King, I think they are sending a statement
Right.
to the United States and the world that we don't ever want the bottom rail to come up to that of the white European white man. And the week of terror, which I'm not going to get into, but that's when they lynched Mary Turner.
Right.
And the week of terror took place, and Sidney Johnson was dragged from, shot up down here, not far from Harrison Funeral Home, and they castrated him, threw his body parts across the street, drug him up and down South Patterson Street, then tied him to the back of a pickup truck and drug him 13 miles away or more to the old campgrounds up there in Morven. And nobody want to talk about racism in Valdosta.
Right.
It's something that people know it exists. I have white folk that give me information from newspapers that I would never have had access to, and but they won't say it publicly. And so, I'm gonna close it right there.
But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the renaming of one of the streets as Obama Boulevard?
For Forest Street, they named Forest Street to Barack Obama Boulevard. That's a long story. But to answer your question directly, it was long overdue. And we ran up into a brick wall to get that street renamed, but Reverend Floyd E. Rose and the People's Tribunal took on that challenge, and they made Reverend Rose so frustrated that he said, threw his hands in the air. They changed the city ordinance, and then they denied they changed it, make it harder to change a street, and it's still into effect. But Jonathan Davis from VSU, from here, he picked up the ball and he ran it on past the goal line, and he got that street renamed. So we forever grateful to Jonathan Davis and students from VSU to carry that across the finish line.
But do you think it should have been another name? A local name? Like, I'm thinking Lomax off the top of my head.
Well, the reason being, Lomax got his day, I'm sure. But the reason why I'm so pleased with Barack Obama Boulevard is because Catherine Harris, a lady that's a member of the People's Tribunal, out the blue yonder, she said, we ought to have a street named after Barack Obama Boulevard since they hate him so much. And so at that time, when they was calling Obama the Antichrist, I got videos posted on my channel where they had all arrows through his head and all this stuff, that he was Antichrist. I think that it was one of the best names that we can name a street here concerning the times in which we lived. That Lomax need to have his day. I mean, they got so many Confederate general streets here.
Right.
So we got a whole new generation of children that got a lot to fight for and get done that should have been done a long time ago. And any other thing on that area, but he also mentioned the winery. This was a black retired master sergeant who started that upscale winery.
Nice.
Store here. And if you ever want to interview somebody, she got a story to tell what they did to her before they ran her out of business. And I must say, I can't think of her name right now, but she was definitely a true professional. Her voice tone, her operandi, everything that you can mention, she tried to get people in to to assist her in keeping the doors open.
Blanche.
But just like he's
Blanche.
yeah, Blanche. Yeah, Blanche.
Is she still around here?
Yes, she's a retired master sergeant. We served in Moody together.
Well, let me ask you this then, because they keep, I'm saying they, or was it me? They keep saying things like, you know, for the veterans and da-da-da. But they never see the black veterans as being veterans. And that's why I've always been like, I've always given a side eye, if you will. Sometimes when we're at the airport and the troops come through and people are clapping and whatnot, and I'm thinking to myself, my father and his generation, they never got that. They were in Vietnam, they were in all these other wars, but they never got that. And so, and then like for me to see just the things that men went through during Vietnam, and they never got anything, but they were just simply performing a duty for which they were called. But now we have this volunteer army.
That's right.
And it's like, oh yes, let's give them their flowers, but then they'll care about them once they get out, because I've seen too many who are not getting the services that they necessarily need from.
If I may at this juncture, let me plug this into the socket.
Yes.
And you started speaking about the veterans. It's 60,000 people here approximately here in Valdosta Moore.
That's right.
I am the only person that I know of a veteran anyway, that is saying that to District Attorney Brad Shealy and to the to the county manager, Paige Dukes, female county manager, that it is indeed a disgrace for Valdosta and Lowndes County to be home of Moody Air Force Base, not to fly a Georgia state flag over the courthouse. And I finally got the school system, the city, to put up flags all over the school because they didn't have any.
You talking about for the state of Georgia?
No, the state flag in this area.
That's what I'm saying.
That they wouldn't put it up. They finally put it up. The city school system.
You right.
Superintendent Cason finally did it, and they criticized me. In fact, as far as
That's part of the state of Georgia.
far as I'm
What in
concerned,
the world?
as far as I'm concerned, they called me crazy. But look here, let me tell you something else. Look, the city commissioners, the mayor, and council went too long without honoring members of our armed forces in Georgia. The National Guard Armory till this day does not have a state flag beneath the United States flag. The Rainwater Conference Center do not fly the Georgia state flag beneath it.
They sure.
Moreover, the VA clinic do not fly a Georgia state flag. Moreover, the Valdosta Daily Times do not fly a Georgia state flag.
Right.
Lowndes County School, Moulton Branch School does not fly a Georgia state flag. And that's not all of them. And it is indeed a disgrace if other cities and counties across the United States can fly the flag to honor the men and women that served in the armed forces and those that are stationed at Moody Air Force Base. I will never stop talking about it. As an honorable retired military veteran, I will never stop talking about it. And I'm 100% sure that eventually, Doctor, they will fly the flag in the state of Georgia in the same manner they do it in Mississippi, Alabama, Omaha, Nebraska, and other states in the United States. And I'm certain that they're going to do it. Now, only one thing as I close, it'll probably take another 50 or 100 years before they do it.
Ooh, good night.
Not with the pressure you gonna keep on them. You know, that's the mentality here. And all of that is to demonstrate control of the power branch, and that they're gonna do how they want to determine to make it work the way they want it to work. And the way they got it working is we are totally excluded. Yeah. Totally 100% excluded. Okay? Our governmental system is filed, just like he just got through describing about the flag, is we is exempt from them the same way. They had an 1860 charter that remained on these walls from 2000, and George hadn't made them remove it in 2004.
Oh, wow.
And how that charter read?
That's right. You know, one day it's strange, but that's another thing that's down the road dealing with veterans.
Right.
As a retired military veteran, I don't know what in heaven or hell it is, but God or the devil blessed me or cursed me to be able to see what others ignore. And so I'm going to city council meeting. I looked on the wall and I saw Valdosta 1860 city charter. And I browsed around, got down to paragraph 100, section 11. It said, and I quote, that the mayor and council shall pass all proper and necessary laws and ordinances for the control of slaves and free persons of color, and to control, suppress, and abate all nuisances arising from dogs, hogs, horses, and other livestock in Valdosta. So I addressed city council, the mayor, and I addressed it to the best of my military abilities. And the military diagnosed me as being slightly above average intelligence, and they ignored it. The mayor at that time, I can't think of his name, but the mayor, it come to me, Freddie. Freddie said it was a part of the landscape. It's a part of the history, and it should never be removed. And the city manager, Hanson, said, we can't remove it. And so the current mayor that we have now, Scott James Matheson, put a dent in history. In fact, he was at the meeting that I addressed, and he said he wanted to talk to me on his radio broadcast, which you can see because I recorded that too. But I don't think he was happy the way the broadcast went. And because
So you did get a chance to go on his show then?
I got there, he called me, went to his show, we talked for about 30 minutes. I give him credit that he did let me speak. And I will make sure you get a copy of that interview. But the mayor said he didn't see nothing wrong with it. Now he's sitting in the seat. I think he see things a little differently today. But yesterday, they didn't say anything about that charter. So that's one reason they wouldn't, I guess they put me on the criminal trespass, because they know me for doing these type of things. The one thing about that flag, if I may add, if you don't mind, is that I've been talking for approximately 9 years. See, I spoke here at Valdosta State University with the doctors and Dr. Aris Santos, I think, he wanted me to be on the panel here. And I sat here at the panel at VSU, and they had a lot of students here. And the question was on about removing the Georgia state flag. I'm one of the people that was on that panel. And to make a long story short, when the TV stations, when the lights were running, they asked a question. And they was asking what university and that you graduated from and all this kind of stuff. And they was giving their credentials and stuff. And you know, me being who I am, you know, I took that little mic that they had on my lapel, I took it off and went and sat back in the audience.
They come at
But Dr. Harris Santos wanted me on it, so he looked around and saw me, and he said, Ryan, why you? I said, no, man, some cats got all these doctor degrees and stuff. He told me, said, Ryan, go back out there, you'll do good. So make a long story short, when I got back on the panel, I got 3 standing ovations. In fact, I closed it out. I was the last one. I was wearing a Confederate hat, by the way, with the Georgia state flag, because I got 4 hats at the house, and I wear that flag because I know the meaning of that flag even before the flag issue came up here. And that's an ancient African flag with the 13 stars. It's engraven on stone in Africa. I got video on it.
Really?
Yeah. There's
that.
an individual who go over there every year, and he show people about it. But to make a long story short, when I received a standing ovation, the last one I received, I made a statement. I said, if you all want this flag removed in the state of Georgia, every black and white person ought to go out and get a flag or this image and put it on a shirt and wear it every day. And I said, I guarantee you these wicked people will take it down in 20 minutes. That's why I had no problem with the flag.
Right. Oh, goodness.
Oh, by the way, with that same flag, do you not know by not flying a Georgia state flag that the Valdosta Daily Times have never interviewed me, and they be at the meetings that I brought this up over 50 or 100 times. WCTV, WALB, ABC, Fox, no TV station have ever called me in and say, Rhynes, we want to interview you. because they are part of the system. People don't understand. That is a calculated system, I believe, to keep this area in that old way, if not to succeed from the union.
Yeah,
They
I
may
can
want to
see
succeed
that.
from the union. And people don't understand. That's why I'm staying on it. But when we go to fight the wars of this nation, we don't go as black or white.
Right.
We don't go as Green Party, Independent, Democrat, Republican. We go as Americans. And I don't understand how in the world our men and women in uniform can serve in the armed forces with the racist people we got serving in that circle today.
Yeah, it's really
It got to be hard on our children.
Yeah, that's why I don't. Yeah, absolutely,
He's
absolutely.
100% right. Now let's go back to that charter for a minute.
Before you go back, well, okay, so I do want to go back to the charter because did they change the city charter?
They finally took it down after he forced them to take it down. But the power structure was carried out by all of the mayors that represented Lowndes County in the city of Austin. They followed it to the T, okay, and until it resulted in what we have today, and that included them not flying the flag. That included everything.
Control, suppress, and obey.
Yes. So please, whenever if you do something with this, make sure that this be part of it, of the mentality, how they actually ran this place based upon the schematic structure of the order
Of that charter.
of that charter.
And let me say this because somebody says right there now, I'm just going to through and I'll be through.
Wait, before that, are they going to change the charter?
They put the new one up. Yeah. They had wait a minute, they had the new charter then.
Really?
But yeah, they had the new charter, but just had the old one up.
They remind them.
So,
They didn't even have the new one.
Wait, okay, I'm slightly confused.
Yeah.
So, you're telling me that they had that 1860 charter up when they had already changed the
Yes.
charter?
Oh yeah, the charter was. They had a new charter.
That was to keep the mayors under the influence of that old mentality.
Exactly.
Okay, now-
Oh my God.
But this point I was gonna make. This is the point
Go ahead, now.
the point I was gonna make very briefly, as I was saying before, is this: they changed the charter, but the mentality of that charter is alive and well.
That's
in
right.
2020.
It is right
That's
now.
right.
Right now.
That's right.
And that's why we forced them in to sit down with us. By the only way we could get somewhere was had to threaten litigation, Title VI, and they took us for granted for several years of saying that we were going to do it until we actually got the attorneys involved.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they got notified by the lawyers that hey, this is going to happen. So
Right.
then now they want to sit down and they want to talk, and we're talking, we're trying to work it out. The mayor seemed to have an open mind to trying to bring some changes. So we let him knew that we got a black city manager that they had put in position as the assistant city manager, which was Richard Hardy. Hardy, I believe his name. And they put an international search for a new one, so they were going to try to keep it all the same. We let them know that it's your best in your interest to let us know that you mean business by the negotiations here, that if you make him the city manager, then that let us know as a signal to us that you are trying to do the right thing.
Right.
So eventually they went on and voted him in.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we said that we would work with him, with them through him. Okay. And that's the position that we're taking right now. But the fact of it is, what Ms. Redwine found is substantial. Okay. And if they don't change the ordinance, we're gonna have to take that final step in filing the litigation.
That's right.
And what we asked them to do, we would ask them to ask the federal government for assistance for the city of $250 million, okay, to be implemented over a 10-year period, spending $25 million a year in the black community. And we asked them to see if they can put a 0.05% tax onto the sale tax, okay? That could help support the community. They're paving streets here for $21 million from the sale tax.
Right.
They doing road upgrades. They're putting in sidewalks.
Right.
Everything you can name through the East Splash, but they ain't putting nothing aside to keep the black community updated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our people mentality is a major problem. Our people, okay? They are so in a way of being broke down for so long that they actually took this to be a way of life. An individual will go out and get a job in McDonald's, work 8 hours, work 6 hours in McDonald's. They won't give them 40 hours. They'll let them work 20 hours a week to McDonald's. Then they'll leave McDonald's, go to Burger King and work 15 hours, then go out into the car wash and work 3 or 4 hours to make ends meet.
Right.
Okay? Now, that's the perfect picture of an economic slave. In other words, you still under the old charter mentality in a city that's predominantly black.
Right.
And you are the underdog in the whole 9 yards. He and I go out and we'll meet young men and says, why you got a job? No, I went high school, got a felon. How did you become a felon? Well, I got a girl pregnant and she had a child. I couldn't pay child support, so I went before the courts 5 times. Now I'm a habitual criminal, which is a felon. So he ain't got a job. But he haven't really went out and stole anything. He ain't
So
been
you
out.
could be considered a felon if you don't pay your child support?
Yes, if you go before the
Is
courts.
that just Georgia?
No, that's a law. If you go before the courts.
But it's a felony?
Yes, when you go before the courts on the 5th time for the same thing as not paying your child support, and you'll find out that you become a nuisance to the courts, and then the court come down on you by the power of the courts and make you and then deem you as a felon, give you a year to year and a half in jail.
Oh my God.
Okay, and so many is victimized of that. Then what that leaves? That leaves the single parent. Okay, which be the female of the group. Then they end up living in Oily West, Hudson Docket, in a governmental facility. Then they get there. Then the manager of it, he takes it as a job managing, not the job as promoting the people for time
Right.
for Section 3.
Yeah.
Because Section 3 was designed to get you out of the projects.
Yeah.
Okay? But they
Yeah.
don't implement it to that degree. We works in all of those areas too. Okay? So he and I done sat down. And we sat down with the city manager here, Larry Hassan, when he first sat down. And we have these open conversations. And we sat down and he says, well, we're going to ask you a question. And he said, now you got to be particular how you answer the question. Have you ever called a black man a nigger before? Just like that. Okay? Just like that. Have you ever called a black man a nigger before? Answer the question. So he said, no, I haven't. I said, we didn't actually use the word. He said, we agree, maybe you haven't. But the rap artist can use the word, and he'll make millions of dollars. But if you as a city manager use the word, you get sued for millions of dollars. So we want to start this conversation off because we want to find out how did it get to be this way, the way it is, and we don't want to walk around on eggshells. The mentality with our people here is, I'm an associate pastor, he's a minister, Pastor Rose, and maybe 1 or 2 others. Out of the 50 or 60 black ministers here, it's the only ones that stand up to this degree.
Oh, I see.
You understand?
Yes.
Now, if we get outside of the box, which we are outside of the box,
You have to be.
okay? And we're not talking about Jesus saved souls and tuck your Bible underneath your right arm and be identified as a good black person, okay? As your identity card. If we're not preaching that tune, then we are out of the box. So when you go to talk about what we're talking here now, we are out of the box, okay? They teach us ceremonial things. They don't teach that God served the whole man. That's
That part.
the soul salvation part,
Right.
and how you gonna make a living.
Right.
We hope that whatever you do with this, if you have us on your talk show,
We want y'all to be on I already talked to Ms. Bill. I was like, oh, we need to have them on our podcast.
schedule something
Yeah.
with a series of questions based on what we discussed here
Yes.
today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because we want to get somewhere.
Yeah.
See, my mom, I was a migrant worker. And we had a little one-room house, no bigger than this, in here. No, one room as a migrant worker. And had a sheet between the parent and my sister. My
Right.
sister and I slept with my feet this way, her feet this way for 2 years. So I know what it was like to be at the very bottom of
Right.
the totem pole.
Right.
Okay? And like I told you, I lived in Baton Rouge. I seen it from the street sign
Right.
of the major city. Just like you got in Houston and everywhere else,
Right.
in Atlanta. So, what he was saying about is everywhere. And like you were saying about how they build the structures in the neighborhoods. Well, Valdosta is going to be the tip of the iceberg if we get this here done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And use it as a model. But we got to be particular how we go about getting it structured to get international attention. Okay?
Yeah, because that definitely needs to be out there.
It need to be.
But what I'm wondering is, what would the People's Tribunal like to see happen next?
Change. Structure change. Power structure change. In other words, from that little one room that I was referring to architects and engineers, we want our portion. We are not begging for it. We are demanding our portion.
Or what is it that the dude from Augusta said? I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door
G.B.R.
and I'll get it myself.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
But see,
Yeah.
what goes on here is that they have done it so long until they don't even consider it to be wrong.
Right.
And when you got your clergymen and your imams in Islam, your rabbis in Judaism, and everybody else sitting back with their head buried in the sand like the legend concerning the ostrich birds, thinking they're in heaven with all their backside out, leaving our children locked out of everything.
Everything.
And we got to find a way, the People's Tribunal and any other organization that will step up to the plate and make their wishes and desires be known. Now, when I retired, I had my own business in 14 years, New Mind Music. The economy got bad, and of course I went to work at Walmart, and Walmart fired me and never entered me into their 4-week training program. You ought to Google my name
Okay.
and Walmart and see how they've published what I said in books that I didn't know about. One day Doc can tell you more about this, but my name came up. I got a call one day. I thought it was one of my enemies, and said, "Are you George Boss Rhynes?" I said, "Your name is flashing in Washington D.C." because I have published so many videos proving how they mistreated me, and they did it because I guess of who I am. So I went across they sent me to Bentonville, Arkansas for a week with 141 other people to talk about the mistreatment and unfairness, in Walmart. But while I'm at it, I also want to mention, because we're still talking about Valdosta here, I was at 2615. In the NAACP, we received a call from white people at Moody, and a white captain to be exact, I'm not going to call his name, and black folk as well. When President Barack Obama was elected president, they did not put a picture of him on the wing headquarters building out at Moody Air Force Base,
I believe it.
just a few miles away.
I believe it.
So
That
what I
happens
did,
so many places.
so they selected me to go out there and talk to them, and I did. I went out there and talked to two different wing commanders, and they said it was because the building was in renovation, but they had other people's pictures up. And I'm retired military, ain't like I didn't know what in the hell or what in the hell I was looking at, and they refused. But make a long story short, when other men were elected president, they put their pictures up.
That's right.
But they just didn't put President Barack Obama up.
Yeah.
Now,
Did
Joseph
they ever
Lowry,
put it up? Did they ever put it up?
eventually
Oh, they did
It
eventually.
took a while. They finally put it up.
Probably
But
24
Joseph
years.
Lowry, with Dr. King in Southern Christian Leadership Conference, with Equipment 10 plus 2. Oh my God, I want to get into that. That's another whole bucket. But
No,
I'm
I
saying
need to
that.
look that up.
I'm
You said
going-
equipment
Oh,
10?
oh Lord, yes.
Okay, I'll look that up.
I got more videos, more information about them than anybody in the United States of America.
Okay.
And that's another reason that they probably put me under the criminal trespass. But Look, Joseph Lowry said, this is what made me thought about the Corporate 10 plus 2. They brought those 12 people up on voter fraud charges. And
Oh,
they were
that's
bogus.
right. I did hear about
I thought
that.
you would have. And
I did
But
hear
look
about
at
that.
Joseph Lowry, who walked with Dr. King, made this statement. Then I'll quit after this. But he said that because of the racism in South Georgia, he said that it is my belief that Lowndes County and Brooks County would be the hub of the next civil rights movement.
You got it right. You
I
got
can see
right.
that. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Listen, whatever you put together, we know you got to wrap this up here.
Yeah, I just have one more question for y'all, but go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, so would you all consider yourselves liberation theologists? Y'all familiar with James Cone?
Yeah, I'm
All his good stuff. Because I had a friend of mine, her father was a minister. And I'll never forget this quote he used to say. He used to talk about how some people are so otherworldly minded that they're of no earthly good.
You right.
And I was like, and I that stayed with me. When he used to say that stayed with me. Cause I
want
was
to say this. As far as our clergymen, he stands in the background,
yeah.
willing to stand behind us and not talk against us.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's a blessing.
Okay. Now that's a plus.
No, they don't talk against us.
Okay.
But no one really have the nerve to step out on the line.
Okay.
They confront the way we step out on the line. We sit down with banks and everybody else and talk the same language we talking here with you now.
That's right.
And they consider ourselves as just a plain citizen that want our share of the economic pie.
That's right. That's right.
That's all we ask.
Let me go back to what you were asked earlier about, before you mentioned James Cone. You said something about were we, what that title, you asked us, were we what?
Liberation theologist.
He may be a liberationist theologist, I'm not.
You said you're a minister, right?
Yeah, I'm a minister of truth outside of the traditional church.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing with liberation theology. It's not necessarily married to a particular
I still have
religion.
ain't nothing you can say to erase what I'm about to say.
Got you.
Okay, ain't nothing you gonna say to erase what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say, you can put any label you want on me.
Right.
But the only label I have found, and I've been doing this for a long time, 15 of us were arrested trying to get a park renamed Baba Park here.
Oh,
15 of us went to jail.
Oh, good.
And so I don't consider myself that. What I consider myself is this: a servant of the Most High God
Yeah.
in the beauty of holiness.
I like that. Yeah.
That's what I consider myself as. To make it short, so you can really see and go home and read what this black man is all about. St. Luke 4:18. That's who I am.
Yeah.
St. Luke 4:18.
Okay.
And here's what it says. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Or he's anointed me to preach the gospel
There
to the
it
poor.
is.
And the recovering of
right.
sight unto the blind.
Yeah.
To preach the acceptable year of the
Yeah.
Lord. To set at liberty them that are bruised.
That's right.
And to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Now that is who I am.
Okay. I hear you. I hear you.
And I will
hear
not back up. I will die.
you. Yeah.
But never, I used to be all those titles. But that's why I used to holler, hallelujah, hallelujah, and hallelujah. Until I found out one day that I was on the wrong road, on my way to heaven, and could never reach it from there. So that's what changed me. When I found out you can go to church, shout, fall down on the floor, do all the traditional stuff you want to, but if you don't do nothing for God's children out here in the street,
Yeah.
if I was God,
Yeah.
and you see my children suffering, and you don't come out here and fight like Brother Robinson and others, and the CDBG grants coming into this town, and the money is directed away from what it was intended by the federal government,
Oh,
then
my
I got
God.
to say something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit back and drive my Cadillac and act like I'm a servant of God. I can't stand up for it.
It's the whole faith without works part
That's right.
is dead, and
Right.
that's the church tradition
Well-
that I have my daughters in, because our church in Houston, we built a homeless shelter, and we were always like feeding the homeless, feeding the poor, providing services, welcome everybody. It wasn't like, oh girl, what you got? It was never that. It was never that, and that was like, this is how you're supposed to be an everyday person.
but-
And so that's how I was. That's how I was. Even after I got my PhD, I was still like, as long as I know what government cheese tastes like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay. So that's where
Let
I'm
me
at.
add something he said earlier, because he said that the local ministers do not come out in us, and that's beautiful.
But at least they're supporting
Absolutely.
you all.
But let me add this now. Don't think that the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, that black pastors didn't stand up. Black pastors have stood out in this town as any pastor anywhere across the nation.
Right.
But they've been beat down so bad. And they know how strong this good old boy system is, and how deep racism is here. And if you talk about it, and if you're in key positions, you have a key but you won't have a lock.
You're right.
Or you have a lock but you won't have a key.
You're right. You're right. And to close it out, we just voices crying for justice and equality and equilibrium. Okay? That's demanding that we're going to get something on the south side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Now you asked me a few questions. I want to ask you a question.
I was gonna get my daddy on the phone to talk to you.
Well, that's fine. That's good. You can do that. You can do that. But my question is, to you is this. Listen to me closely, because as my daddy used to say, I don't have that much education, you understand. But I know where I'm going. So here's
That's
the question.
right.
Here's the question. Are you sure that you want this published that we've done here today on my YouTube channel? Are you sure? Do you? Before you. Well, I told you, my dad said you wasn't that.
I didn't tell. I thought I just told you that I knew red, black, and green before I knew red, white, and blue.
Yeah, you did tell me that. See, somebody.
And Dad was in the Air Force. I'm just saying.
You said that, but somebody also told me I was free.
You are.
As a black man, they told me I was free.
Yeah.
But hell, we can't vote today. We got to fight to get a vote. They told me I was free. We couldn't get a drink of water from a water fountain. Couldn't use the toilet on the highway.
Right.
But they told me I was free. We died in every war of this nation, and they said we were free.
Yeah.
And then over there in Vietnam, which I did a live feed a few minutes ago out at the park and did it uploaded on Facebook. And I said them in Vietnam, people would ask us, "What in the hell are y'all doing over here? You need your enemies is right there.
Yeah.
That you need to be fighting back home."
Yeah.
Hello, somebody.
Yeah, you heard about
That's the question I just thought.
Yeah.
That's my passion.
But you heard about the it's like an African Socialist Party who were just raided by the FBI and arrested and charged with not registering as a foreign agent, and the whole case is really insane.
I gotta Google that.
I think it's called the African Socialist Party. The man is 80 years old, and him and his wife, and they've been active in the movement for a long time. So they raided people down in St. Pete, in St. Louis. It was the FBI, and I was like, and then they're upset because they took some money from the Russians, from a Russian foreign actor or something like that. But I was like, but that's what they've been doing for years. Like, what are y'all talking about? So I'm gonna pull it up because I was like. He gave a whole talk on Democracy Now! About that.
Send that to my email or
your email. Okay, I
messenger,
sure will.
Messenger at my phone number or something.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it later. Probably
pull
we'll
this
get it today, but
yeah, because you're gonna be like, what? That case is going on right now. So it's like.
And when you read, make sure your dad read this.
Okay, I'm gonna read that too.
Let me give you my email.
Oh, okay.
It's cancer, CANCERART 870 at gmail.com. Now I got diagnosed with terminal cancer.
You said cancer?
Yeah, cancer.
Cancer, ART?
Yeah, cancer.
870?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm also an artist.
You said you got diagnosed.
Yeah, I got diagnosed with terminal cancer back in 2008, and I've been in remission now for 15 years. I done beat it, God included. And,
Tell them the short story about what they did to you, because that's very interesting.
Oh, they took my stomach, removed my stomach completely. I weighed 225 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I got down to 103 recorded weight, and they removed my stomach and gave me to my small intestines and made me what's called a hunt lunch pouch. And I suffered every time I eat. I go through 15 minutes of pain.
Oh goodness.
But I got used to it. It's a way of life. But I did find that esophageal cancer is out of a 5-year survey of 1,000 people. There was only 5 survivors.
Oh
Okay?
goodness.
That's my odds against it. But racism is just as deadly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as deadly.
That's what I wrote in my book.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a book that comes out in June.
Okay.
And it's about health psychology and black people. I said it has nothing to do with comparing us to white people. It has to do with what are our strengths and what has made us survive all this time.
That's right.
And it has nothing to do with what's out here.
Right.
So.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What's your name again?
I'm Dr. M. Denise Lovett.
And give us the name of that book.
And, the name of this book?
No.
Oh, the name of my book?
Yes.
Oh, it is called Africana Health Psychology, A Cultural Perspective. And it comes out in June, so I don't have a hard copy.
Okay.
But I will send you the link. Yes.
Okay.
We're trying to promote it, all that good stuff. And then the way that I wrote it, I wanted to write it in a way where my cousins in South Georgia or my cousins in Jacksonville could just pick it up and read it and know what I'm talking about.
I know.
So I wasn't writing like, some of these other people. I was like, I don't write like that. I want my cousins to read it.
Not only do you not write that way, you don't talk that like that because I feel so comfortable with you. Unlike some other people that I've met, but Mark George was not one of them. He's a Caucasian brother, and
he's real down to earth.
You know him?
I met him like me and him were just going back and forth like on the email. I was like, okay, so you're backing my up.
Mark George is. We became friends a long time ago.
Yeah.
Some things we don't see eye to eye on, but most things we do. But what impresses me about him and Dr. Ari Santos, those two white people. Now,
Is
I can't
he still
forget.
here?
Yes.
What's that, Eric?
Ari Santos. He's not involved anymore publicly, but he has a business. And Santos, S-A-N-T-A, yeah, Santos.
S-A-N-T-O-S?
Yes, I think Santos.
Okay, I need to find him.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's here.
And you may have to give us a voucher or something for where we are parked because.
Where did y'all park?
We parked way over there, but they told us 45 minutes or something like that.
Oh, I don't think they'll bother your car.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna walk over there.
Here's the key. Here's the key. Once we get the ticket, normally if we get one, we can bring it back. And
just send it to me. Yeah.
Because that's what normally happens. I used to come out here and speak to some of the classes they had out here.
That'd be perfect.
Put together, based on what we went over.
Yeah.
Structure your program coming up.
Okay.
So you can get all the key points you need us to talk about.
I took good notes. I will be talking to Miss Gwen. This is gonna be good. Okay, that's great. This is wonderful.
Before we go, ask us for closing remarks, Ethan.
Okay, so I'm not used to interviewing, that's Miss Gwen's purview. But okay, so do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Yes. That we're looking forward to pressing on. We're looking forward to working with the city to come to a resolve of the situation that we have, and let it be known that if we can't come to a common sense resolve, we will be going into federal court. And that's the bottom line. We don't want to go there, but it may be necessary, and we will take the necessary steps to make sure that justice prevails and equality and equilibrium come to this city.
My comments is that I want to thank you so much, because it's very seldom that I meet someone that have gone through the schools, first grade, second grade, and PhD, and yet they can reach down like my white brother, Mark George and Ari Santos, and still keep the common touch, not lose it. It means a lot to me, and so I want to thank you. And I'll close by saying this, is that for the people who watch this video, don't you dare think for one moment that change is not coming to Valdosta. You may not see it in your lifetime. Change is coming. And the reason I know it's coming is because St. Matthew 24:35 says, Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will stand forever. And he also said in Psalm 68:31 that princes shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall soon spread forth her hands unto God. This is the dispensation when we are witnessing the fulfillment of divine prophecy. And this is why they are now fighting so hard to turn back the word of God. He said in the last days, Trump would make a lie look like the truth, and the truth look like a lie, and many would fall for it. But I'm one that will not.
Yeah, I really appreciate you all giving me the opportunity
All right.
to interview you all. I'm always interested in media and how people come upon information, and along the same lines, I'm not one to consume the corporate media. Like, I find out what's going on from listening to. There's a YouTube channel called Black Power Media, so that's how you know about that one. That's how I find out about everything, and I'm like, okay, I got my news for the day. I'm good now. And so sometimes people are like, well, how do you know? Da da da. And how do you know the rest of it? I'm like, Black Power Media. They do some serious.
If you want opinions, go to traditional corporate media. That's what you get. You get opinions.
Yeah.
In fact, I ain't gonna get it. I'm through.
So are you gonna be like one of the have you got with Black Power Media in terms of like being a part of their channel?
No, that's a good question. No, I haven't.
Because I'm like,
no.
Do you know how big that is?
No, here's the point. I've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
I got over 2 million views and I don't know how many thousands of videos.
Okay.
And I've gone and helped people. I kept people out of jail, prisons. They've given testimonies about what I've done and that type of thing. But Rachel Maddow, I've sent everybody's material out sharpened. But see, when you like me, you have to walk within the confines of God, and that's what I do. So I don't look for nobody to embrace me. And if they do, I don't look for that.
Right.
I have made myself known to them.
Right.
If they want to come and do something, it's fine. But I don't reach them. I don't.
That makes sense. Well, I gotta go to this 2 o'clock meeting.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading these.
These 3 outstanding people and this beautiful building here. I will come back and interview you one time in your building.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds